Hey, welcome back to the garage, everyone. The moment you've all been waiting for has finally arrived. We're about to tackle the rear end on our W126, so stick around. All right, step number one, put your car in neutral. We're going to have to turn the axles a little bit later on, so this is absolutely required before you put the car in the air. All right, we're underway, folks. Already got the wheel off of the car. Next up, we're going to get the center bolt out and get ready to take this axle out of the vehicle. 13 millimeter. And that's what that looks like. We've got to go ahead and get the car a little farther in the air and get the fluid drained from the differential. All right, I know I've showed you this before, but a little closer examination here. I just wanted to show you, we are catching this just in time. That is on the verge of separating. As of the making of this video, I have not ordered the side cover seals on the differential where the axle enters. I'm going to take the axle off first and see what is there and then order the part. I talked to one Mercedes dealership parts department already, and they said that that seal from Mercedes is no longer available based on the VIN number of this car for a 1984, so I'll probably have to go aftermarket. All right, while our degreaser is doing its thing, let's go ahead and get the rear sway bar loosened so that we can make room for the bolts holding the differential bracket on. Let's go ahead and get our differential bracket off, and then we'll be able to drain the differential fluid and remove the diff cover. This is a 22 millimeter. There we go. All right, bolt number one loose. All right, let me get the ratchet. One bolt. All right, we're going to finish up with a standard wrench. Not enough room for the socket. Yeah, that's what I thought. There was a little bit of downward pressure on the differential. All right, let's unbolt the differential bracket from the car now. All right, I went and got my transmission jack just to give the rear differential just a smidgen of support while we work. And there is the old differential bracket. It is in pretty sorry shape. All right, we're now in the clear to start taking the bolts out of our differential cover. All right, so I was a little bit curious about the movement in the differential here. So I took the pressure back off of my transmission jack and just decided to see what was going on here. So the differential is bolted. There's 4 bolts on top of the differential. And it is bolted to these cross members here. There's one here and there's one on the other side. If you come in here, and if I push up on the differential, you could see where all of that stuff moves. So it has a lot of flex in it. And I'm assuming the flex is coming from these mount points back here, which, I think is appropriate. If someone knows better and wants to comment down below, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to continue on. All right, we got a number 14 Allen socket and a big long breaker bar. There we go. Let me tell you something. Go get yourself a big old long piece of 1-inch pipe. Make your life a whole lot easier. All right, I think we're starting to loosen up there. And see what kind of nastiness oozes out of this differential. It doesn't look too bad, really. I think someone probably changed it in the last few years. So we're going to let that drain out, and then we're going to pull the diff cover off, and then we will put our jack and block back underneath the differential and support it. Then we will remove the axle shafts. All right, our fluid is drained as much as it's going to, so let's go ahead and get our drain plug back in there. Our differential cover bolts are 15 millimeter, and we're going to go for the hardest one first, which is right here next to the vent tube. Once you break them loose, they're really easy. You just get them out of there by hand. All right, see if we can't tap this thing loose here. Hey, that was easy. All right, so this is fairly interesting. I do not see a whole lot of RTV on that. All right, little shot up inside the differential there. And you can see the end of the axle shafts. There's one right there and one right there. So we're going to have to get the clips off of the end of the axle shaft, and then we can pull it out of the diff. All right, our next step is to remove the clips on the end of each axle shaft. Now there's a clip here. There's a tang sticking off of it, and there's a hole right there. All right, we were successful. I just wanted to give you a demonstration of how I did this. I went and got my oil seal or grease seal tool, and I slipped this longer end, the corner of it. You can see the clip is still sitting in there. And I slipped the corner of the tool into that hole, just the corner of it, and I used the backside, and I used leverage not against the gears, but against this part right here. And that worked out really well. Let's just go ahead and get that little guy out of there. And that's what that looks like. All right, we should be free to remove this axle now. You'll notice some rope dangling there. I like to be safe. If something were to happen and the axle were to drop downward, I certainly wouldn't want it to land on the floor and break, because W126 axles are hard to come by. Got a big old socket on a big old extension. We're just going to do a little gentle persuasion and see what happens. All right, you can see where we've moved right there, right? So we've got a little more to go. All right, we finally got the outboard end of the driver's side axle. If I had to do this all over again, I would probably remove the back seats and remove the shocks in an effort to lower the wheels down a bit farther. But instead, I raised the differential with the transmission jack to compensate. All right, so I had to break out the big boy crowbar and get in here and, you know, pry a little bit and kind of coax it out of there. It's just not going to fall out of there, folks. You're going to have to work at it, so just trust me on that. All right, now we're going to get busy and see if we can't get this thing out of the differential. So you've got just enough room where the brake caliper was for the outboard end of the axle to slip past. So you're going to have to remove the brake caliper when you do this. All right, we got a little shim or a little spacer or something right there. We don't want to screw that up. But I am going to get in here with my little pry bar and give myself a little extra juice. And I think that did the trick. This damn thing's heavy. All right, we got driver's side axle out of the car, ladies and gentlemen. Woohoo! Applause, please. Thank you very much. All right, folks, don't mind the rain. It's just what we needed. Right about now, we're going to cut the can off the outboard end of our axle shaft. All right, the rain continues to fall. As you can see here, as we cut the can off, the original fluid that was in the end of the axle shaft there from the factory leaked out. There we go, that just slips right out of there. So we got the cap off without too much problem. And you can see where I just trimmed along that outer edge there. I was kind of wondering what that rubber smell was when I was grinding away. We dug into the stock O-ring. We get new O-rings with the kit. So let's continue disassembling this CV joint. To make our life a little easier, we're going to go ahead and clip this inner part of the boot first, and then we can slide this back and get a puller on the end of the spider joint to get that off of there. And these tin snips come in handy. They're good for all sorts of stuff. All right, you guys, I got one request from the peanut gallery. Remind me to buy a bigger press. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's working. I have seen movement. There we go. It's coming on out now. I was going to try to hammer it out, but believe you me, that's not something you want to tackle. All right, we're going to give you the nasty details of what's going on here. I have a big old long cheater bar, and I am making progress. As you can see, the axle shaft is down pretty far now. We are almost out of the CV joint. All right, and that is how you do that, folks. I'm rather proud of that. Let's move on, shall we? Let's remove the last bit of this rubber boot. I tell you what, there's nothing part of this job that's easy. All right, there you go. There it is, the upper part of the can and the boot. So let's move on and remove the inboard boot. Let's try these tin snips and see how that works. All right, that worked pretty well actually. Let's get the upper section off. Woo, we got a lot of oil in there we got to contend with. Let's get the... All right, we had to get some plastic there to contain our oil spill. I forgot about that. All right, let's continue on and get this inner boot off. All right, finally, inner boot is off. And we can see down in the inside of the inner joint there. So we'll have to drain all that oil out. We may clean it out with some solvent before we pack it with grease. All right, we got the axle shaft cleaned up with a little bit of brake clean and a wire brush and just some good old elbow grease there, so that when we slip our rubber boot over onto the inner joint, we don't suck up a bunch of trash up in there. Right now, we're going to go ahead and grease up our inner joint and install our new boot. All right, we're going to have to work that stuff down in there. All right, I'm going to put the rest of the grease down inside the boot. All right. Let's get our boot positioned onto the inboard can here. All right, continuing on. This boot's pretty stubborn. Everything's so greasy. I'm going to try this wooden shim here to try to slip this boot over this thing. All right, just trimmed it down just a little bit there. Let's try again. Almost. All right, we've got to go ahead and get the clamps on this thing now. The clamps that came with the Febi Bilstein kit are junk. This thing here with the screw in it, is crap. It's not going to work. I don't know why they put it in the kit, but it simply will not work. So I went to NAPA and bought some different clamps. These appear to be infinitely, or not infinite, but highly variable. As you can see, they have notches all the way around them, and you can adjust them however you want. Okay, we're going to use one of those, and we're also going to use our new CV boot clamp crimping tool. NAPA Service Tools, part number 3955. This clamp seems to be pretty close to the size we need already. I'm going to get the clamp as small as I can get it by hand, and then I'll use the tool to tighten it up. There we go. That was really easy. These clamps from NAPA are really nice. Okay, and I bought 4 of them in case I screwed something up. So anyway, here we go. So here's the tool. Here's your CV boot crimping tool. All right. That center part right there rests inside that little dimple right there to give yourself some grip. So, all right, here we go. Just like it was done at the factory. So if you need replacement clamps for your CV boots, go to NAPA. If you're in the United States, rather. So I've got this cheap clamp from the Febi Bilstein kit. I'm going to go ahead and use the small clamp simply because it works, unlike the larger clamp. The larger clamp simply would not work. God, I cannot believe that Febi Bilstein put these cheap-ass clamps in this kit and they don't even work. They're the wrong size. All right, so I used the Febi Bilstein clamp, the small clamp. I went ahead and used it. It doesn't tighten up tight enough. It's a little too large, and the big clamp that came for this side was not big enough. So I'm probably going to find a small crimp style clamp for this end as well, and I'll replace that later on. We'll see if this holds the grease in. Fine, well, I'll leave it there, but we'll just see how it goes. Anyway, so let's go ahead and put the outer end of the axle back together. All right, let's go ahead and reassemble everything. First up, we're going to slip the boot over the axle. Next up, we've got to put the top part of the can on there. All right, what's next? So the can, so obviously this is the outside part of the spider joint. This can slips over it like that, okay? There is an O-ring that goes right there, so you don't want to forget about that. And there are a couple of O-rings that come with the kit that go inside the can. One of the O-rings goes in the top part of the can like that. And then when you slip this over the axle, this goes here like this. And then you crimp this around. All right, we got our axle positioned in the vise. And we're going to go ahead and drive the inner portion of the spider joint back down onto the axle shaft. We're almost there. I'm going to go down until I don't see any more splines down below here. Because when I pulled this out of the car, I had probably 3 or 4 millimeters of the shaft sticking out the end. I think we're done. Absolutely fantastic. Let's finish this thing up. Okay. Let's clean up a few things here, and we will reassemble this spider joint. Let's get the steel balls and the spider joint back together. All right, first thing I'm going to do is clean my balls off. All right, let's slip this together. We'll angle it about like that. And we'll get these first two. There we go. Well, the first two were easy. Ha! I don't know about the others. Yeah, you got to give yourself some working room. Got to spread this thing out to get these in here. All right, it's kind of tough. You got to make sure you get this thing spaced properly for each one. I mean, you really, to get these next two in, you've got to really spread it out. Ah, there we go. All right, it's not so bad. It's just a little awkward, that's all. All right, last two. These will probably be the hardest, I'm assuming. Alright. Woo! Yeah! We rock. All right, we did it, folks. All right, now we have our little small O-ring that goes right here. And then we have our can, and we need to wipe it out and make sure we don't have any dust in it that will prematurely shorten the life of our 35-year-old CV joint. All right, yep. Our O-ring is in place. Our big O-ring is in place. Now comes the easy part. We have to crimp this. The original part from Mercedes, you know, I'm sure they used a specific tool to do the job, and it was uniformly crimped all the way around. We don't have that. It's not going to be that pretty when I'm done. We have an O-ring in here, right? It just needs some good uniform pressure all the way around to seal properly and keep the grease inside the joint. So that is our goal. All right, we're back over at the vise. It's not clamped down tightly, it's just hanging there. We're going to proceed with crimping this lip. Let's start over here. Rotate around here. I'm going to try this blunt end punch and just see how that works. Actually, I think the blunt end punch works a lot better. It's already tight. Just with 4 basic crimps. So I'm going to continue going around, evenly spaced. I bet there's some Mercedes mechanics around that are cringing right about now. All right, I'm not going to bore you with this. This is going to take a while. This kit comes with 2 containers of grease, genuine grease for constant velocity joints, GNK Brew Molly. All right. Anyway, I already put the first container in there, but let's go ahead and get this second one in here. Let's get our boot down on there. This GNK kit came with a much more robust, much higher quality clamp than the Febi Bilstein kit did. And you want to use your hands and get the clamp onto the can as far as you can, you know, by yourself with your hands, and then use the tool. I believe that is as far as I can get it. All right, where's my tool at? Here we go, as they say on the hydraulic press channel. You guys ever watch the hydraulic press channel? Man, gosh, funny as hell. And you want to press down a little bit and then crimp. There we go. You don't want to crimp it too much, right? But you want to crimp it like that to where those two, you see where they meet right there? That's how you want to do it. All right, we have to put the small clamp on now. And again, you want to use your hands. Get it on there as far as you can. All right, so there's a close-up shot, at least as good as my camera can do anyway, for the crimping process. Yeah, it looks like it was pretty blurry. Sorry about that, folks. There There you go, all done. Okay, everyone, what you have here is one fully rebooted W126 rear drive axle. All right, so I used a Febi Bilstein kit on the inboard end, okay, but I had to go off and find some different clamps at NAPA, and there is the clamp from NAPA that I used. The NAPA clamps look like that. They have lots of holes in them, and they can fit a wide variety of sizes of boots. Okay, this is the clamp that came with the Febi Bilstein kit. It's junk, moves around a little bit. I'll put it on the car, see if it holds grease. If it does, we'll keep it. If not, I'll buy a better clamp and put it on there later. The G&K kit out of Germany was much better. Here's the boot. Here are the clamps that came with it. Okay, and they're the crimp style clamps. You're gonna need to get a proper crimping tool to do this job. So go ahead and spend the money. The kits come with an O-ring that goes between the can and the axle and the spider joint. And there's also an O-ring right here. Now, this has to be crimped, but I used a hammer and a blunt punch, rather, to crimp that down, and it is tight, tight, tight. And there's an O-ring in there. It's good to go. It's not going to leak. I promise you, it's not going to leak. I know it looks like hell, but it's going to be okay. You guys relax. All right, next thing up is get this thing on the car. But seeing as how I haven't uploaded a video in several days, I'd like to go ahead and finish this one out and go ahead and upload this and before I get started on the rest of the car. So I think we're going to call this a video, folks. I wanted to say I really appreciate you stopping by my channel. If you like the content, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I've had a tremendous amount of fun making videos for this Mercedes W126, and I'm not a Mercedes diehard. Well, I kind of am nowadays. I guess I've been suckered into it. But, you know, I like all kinds of cars. I like Jeeps, Cadillacs, Corvettes, Camaros, you know, even a Ford or two. So anyway, you guys hit the like button. Please subscribe, and look forward to more cool videos in the near future. We'll talk to you later.